to be an entrepreneur, own an enterprise, run an enterprise. It's the most empowering thing.
It is my pleasure to have this conversation for the second episode with our FICCI leader, Ms. Lakshmi Puri, who is also the ambassador and former deputy executive director of UN Women. Years of experience in enabling women-related issues, helping for resolutions, and observing the rights and wrongs of what goes on in the ecosystem for women in India and outside. Ma'am, I'm just going to get into the thick of the questions because your rich experience and insight on these deliberations that keep coming up again and again is very, very important. But first, welcome to this conversation, and we are delighted to have you.
Thank you very much, Naghma.
That despite improvements in social indicators, India's growth does not really translate to economic inclusion and development of women. Unfortunately, we've seen that. But what are the micro and macro challenges that contribute towards this dismal representation of women in this entrepreneurial landscape in India, according to you?
Entrepreneurship is a crucial indicator of women's economic empowerment and complements women's formal labor force participation, which is also low in India and got lower. It is a silver bullet in many ways for poverty eradication and gender equality. Despite all this, according to the 6th economic census, and I'm now going to go into a few numbers, if you will permit me, women constitute around 13.8% of the total entrepreneurship. 8.05 million out of a total 58.5 million entrepreneurs. Most women-owned enterprises are micro, small, and medium enterprises. Very few are in the big league. And I've often asked that question, why is it that women should be, told that this is, or tell themselves that small is beautiful? No, big is beautiful for women too. Now, what are the challenges? As you asked, several macro and micro challenges, supply and demand side. And what needs to be addressed? First and foremost, I think all of us know this, patriarchy and lack of a gender equality culture in family, society, marketplace. The boy preference and girl aversion, attitude manifests itself in not encouraging and investing and valuing women's entrepreneurship. So that is a big, big challenge. Upgrading education, training, skills, that needs to be done. Access to finance, credit, identified as the single biggest challenge facing women entrepreneurs today.
The number of schemes, very thoughtful schemes, the focus that the government has to provide support to women as they enter entrepreneurship has been very high. But COVID has been a massive disruptor. It has widened the global gender gap. We used to say it's 99.5 years before which the gap will be bridged. Now it's 135 years. What again are some of the essential reforms that the government policies will be required to now step up and use to overcome this widening gap? What would your thoughts be on that?
COVID, as you call it, a disruptor, but it has been a mega, Armageddon, if I have always called it. So that setback that is visible in women's entrepreneurship struggles during the pandemic is indeed a massive one. Though I understand from what I have seen or read that India has closed up to 62% of its gender gap till date, but much remains to be achieved. The positive side is that 75% of women-owned businesses surveyed are keen to explore new opportunities, and they have adopted technology as a key intervention strategy for coping with the crisis. Interestingly, 47% reported receiving some assistance and support from their supply chain partners. A few of these businesses have seized new opportunities to start production of COVID-19 related products like PPE, gear, masks, immunity boosters, etc. However, despite institutional and other efforts, much more needs to be achieved in this space if they are going to be part of the economic renaissance of India after COVID. Significant investment should be made for skill developing in women-led micro enterprises. Need to create an ecosystem that takes care of issues like providing technical and training support along with other assistance to women entrepreneurs to grow their business. This could be achieved through budgetary support or CSR funds by setting aside money for developing such a support system for women. And also special focus should be directed at via online information and dissemination. Now, a lot of women are getting up their education, upskilling, recruitment, and networking. And also easy access to the internet. So because there is a big digital divide, gender digital divide and internet divide. So that we have to find, and I think the Prime Minister's Digital India program of reaching women, of reaching even villages and internet being, freely available to everyone is a very big, it could be a big enabler.
Absolutely.
Government and private organizations should come together to create this digitally enabled incubation centers that would provide financial support to women, tech entrepreneurs in particular, and documentation. Of course, this is something that is really important to document and put forward so that more women come forward in terms of the grassroots level entrepreneurship to encourage and inspire other women. These are the various recommendations that have been made based on findings and surveys, and so data has been generated, and which is very important. Knowledge-based interventions are very important.
If we look at it now from a global perspective on women entrepreneurship, is it still a priority according to you? And if it is, what role does dialogue play in the current scenario of women entrepreneurship in India? And how much of a global dialogue or coalition in this space can create impetus around development of women entrepreneurs?
Well, it has been globally recognized, and our government of India is in the forefront of fostering the role of women entrepreneurship as a driving force for changing not only the gender equality narrative, but the development narrative. Women's contribution as a lever for driving national economic growth, I think, has been recognized everywhere. And it also provides the most fruitful and satisfying of outlets for women power and benchmarking of gender equality in the country, society, and economy. To be an entrepreneur, own an enterprise, run an enterprise, it's the most empowering thing. Now, in the context of COVID, I think all agencies around the world and donors, as well as the international community in general, they recognize that in the context of building back better, you really need to continue to focus on gender equality in entrepreneurship and supporting women's entrepreneurship, and with the objective of building back better.
You did dwell upon a lot of issues that hold women back, that women are primarily responsible for, like childcare, like unpaid work. You did dwell a lot, and I'm so glad you did that. And that basically goes to the fact that agency and mobility, even in today's times, remain absent for a large segment of women in India. So the question then becomes, is the country even ready to adopt gender mainstreaming through its planned action, including legislation, policies, programs across all limbs? Do you think the current gender budgeted federal and central schemes and policies have had a drastic impact on achieving the SDG 5 by 2030, or do we actually look somewhere else for the answers?
The Prime Minister, last International Women's Day, he tweeted women are playing a leading role in India's quest to become Atmanirbhar. So, but I would say on International Women's Day, he said, let us commit to encouraging entrepreneurship among women. So obviously, there is this priority that has been given. The question is, to support his statement, of course, he brought products from various women self-help groups, and so there is a lot of demonstrative effect that is being had. But the question that arises is that how do we translate this political will? We have a lot of good schemes, as you saw. We need to also target more policies, laws. Some of them you need to translate into laws. Some of them are policies. Some of them are specific measures and schemes. So all of that then needs to be implemented on the ground. Now, the question is also that it cannot be the role only of government, but even in government, it has to be an all of government, enterprise to support women entrepreneurs. It cannot be just the Ministry of Women and Child Development or MSMEs. It has to be also other ministries. And then it cannot be just government, it has to be multi-stakeholder and all of society and economy projects. So the corporate sector, indeed, which is one of the biggest engines of the economy, has to be part of this. And the society is, I think, changing mindset is a big project in itself. One of the best ways to really get women entrepreneurship flowering is to change the mindsets